Thank you for tuning in today for another program of Glory Bound. We are here to share the gospel of Jesus Christ through the preaching of God's holy word and Christ-centered music. Our desire is to encourage and uplift those that need a special touch from our Savior. Join us now for another blessed program of Glory Bound.
Hello and welcome to Glory Bound. I'm glad you joined with us today. I'm Elaine Harding. Today we have Glenn Anthony, who is going to be singing with us. And then we're going to do a little bit different program today with Marty Holman. He usually brings a message, but we're going to do an interview with him today. As most of you know, he had got COVID a couple years ago, and we're going to discuss that. But first, we're going to have Glenn sing the song, You're Still Lord.
When I was just a child, I heard a beautiful story. How you loved me so and died on Calvary. And though I claimed you way back then as Lord Almighty, things haven't changed. My love's still the same. You're still Lord to me. You're still Lord. You're still my Father. In little or much, I still feel your touch. You're still Lord. You're still Lord. You're still my Father. You'll always be mine for all of time. You're still Lord. Some have called you Lord, and now they serve another. To worldly things their heart has pledged its loyalty. But as for me, when I made the choice, it was forever. As before, but now even more, you're still Lord to me. You're still Lord. You're still my Father. Or much, I still feel your touch. You're still Lord. You're still Lord. you'll always be mine. For all of time, you're still Lord. You'll always be mine. For all of time, you're still Lord. And you'll always be Lord.
Thank you, Glenn. That was a beautiful song. He always does a great job. He's one of our favorite singers here at Glory Bound. Let me give you a thought for today. Peace is not the absence of trouble. It is the presence of God. Do you have that peace today? That peace that passes understanding. It's the peace that only God can give you. Well, Glenn's coming back, and he's going to sing that good old song, The Anchor Holds.
I have journeyed through the long dark night, out on the raging sea. Sight unknown, by faith alone, God's eyes were watching me. The anchor holds, though the ship is battered. The anchor holds, though the sails are torn. I have fallen on my knees as I face the raging sea. The anchor holds in spite of the storm. I've had visions, yes, I've had dreams. I have even held them in my hand. But I never knew they could slip right through like they were only grains of sand. The anchor holds, though the ship is battered. The anchor holds, though the sails are torn. I have fallen on my knees as I face those raging seas. But the anchor holds in spite of the storm. I have been young, but I am older now, and there has been beauty these eyes have seen. But it was in the light, through a storm in my life, that's when God proved His love for me. The anchor holds, though the ship is battered. The anchor holds, though the sails are torn. I have fallen on my knees as I face the raging sea. The anchor holds in spite of the storm. I have fallen on my knees as I face those raging seas, but that anchor holds in spite of the storm.
Thank you, Glenn. Awesome. Well, as most of you, or many of you know, Pastor Marty Holman had COVID and was in the hospital and put on the ventilator for quite a long time. Actually, many of us probably thought he was never going to come out of that hospital. But he's here today, and we're so thankful. And we're going to talk about that experience that he had. And, you know, when you went into the hospital, you were really pretty sick because you ended up on that ventilator quickly.
Yeah, I on Saturday, October the 2nd, I worked a funeral with a guy who was sick. He told me he was sick. Of course, that was right in the middle of the pandemic. And that guy that I worked that funeral with ultimately died while I was in the hospital with COVID. And he was actually a funeral director that was retired that worked part-time. So he was older than I was. But on Sunday, October 3rd, I started to feel sick. By Tuesday, I knew I was really sick, and I went to get a test as to whether I had COVID. And on Wednesday morning, shouldn't have done it, but I taught that class at Hillcrest Baptist Church. And didn't know that I had COVID, but I knew I didn't feel good. And Wednesday afternoon, the test came back that I had COVID. Thursday evening, which would have been October 7th, 2020, I started a coughing spell. And that coughing spell was so bad, it lasted for about an hour. And it felt like my lungs were just going to fly out of my body and my chest was going to burst wide open. And then I started spitting up blood. So I knew at that point that I was probably in trouble. So I had my daughter drive me to the hospital. And of course, at that time, the hospitals were closed. Mm-hmm. So she couldn't go in with me. She just had to drop me off. And they admitted me with COVID. And on Saturday, I had another one of those coughing spells, which would have been on Saturday, October the 10th. Same scenario, in the hospital though, but it lasted longer And a doctor came by my room. Of course, I was quarantined, isolated. He walked by my room, don't know who he was. You know how they had to wear garb
Yeah.
when they came into your room? He
Yeah.
wasn't in any of that. He opened the door a little ways, pointed his finger at me and said, "You're going to ICU." And so I remember being moved into ICU. That was Saturday, October 10th. And I don't remember another thing until November the 19th. So that day on October the 10th, I was put on a ventilator. And I was on the ventilator 39 days. And then I was still out, and they put me on a trach. I began to improve, so they took the ventilator out and they put me on a trach. And then on the October 19th, I woke up, or began to wake up. And so I don't remember anything there for about 6 weeks. I just know that when they life flighted me to Indianapolis, my boy had flown in from Massachusetts. And he called a couple in his church who were both doctors. And she said, "I'll call you back." And she evidently did some research, and the husband and wife called him back and said, "Pastor, get him to Indianapolis." Said, "That is a good hospital there at Reed, but it's a regional hospital. You need to get him to Indianapolis." And so they life flighted me, and when they life flighted me, my oxygen level was under 50.
Wow.
And of course, I was still on
And
the
they don't
ventilator.
like it under 90, I
No,
think it is.
under 90 is hospitalization. And but the three guys that put me on the helicopter, two of them came to Hillcrest. One was a police officer, the other was a nurse. The third guy that put me on the helicopter was a guy that had served as our sheriff in Wayne County, Jeff Kappa.
Okay.
And all three of them said to me afterwards, "We never thought we'd ever see you again until heaven," because they were certain that I wasn't going to even make it to Indianapolis. And one of the reasons, Elaine, that they transported me to Indianapolis, because I had developed a hole in my esophagus. Now, Reed never admitted it, but they probably punctured my esophagus when they put in
The trach?
the ventilator.
Oh, the ventilator. Okay.
Yeah. And but they life flighted me to Indianapolis for surgery to repair that, because they said, "No way is he going to get better without that being repaired. He's going to die." So when I got to Indianapolis, the surgery room was ready. The surgeon was ready. My boy and my brother had driven over. They were there. This was not told to me because I wasn't awake.
Yeah, you.
But they told my boy, the surgeon came out, and he told my boy, he said, "I'm not sure what happened, but either they misdiagnosed that tear at Reed, or a power greater than I has already taken care of the problem." So the reason I got sent to Indy was because of the tear. When I got there was no longer a tear there. And St. Vincent's really was a great place to be during that time.
Oh, that was a blessing in disguise.
Oh, yeah, it was of the
like
Lord.
that. Now, I got a couple questions for you.
Okay.
Okay. Now, while you were on the vent, okay, I mean, were you completely out?
I
you
don't
knew
remember a
nothing.
thing.
So it wasn't like, did you ever pray? So you really, if you were out, and you wonder when people are, okay, what are they thinking? What's going on in their mind when they're,
I had incredible dreams. Okay. I'm going to share some of these dreams. They're interesting. One dream I had was that I was in Detroit, Michigan, doing a wedding for a friend, and we were in a big hotel downtown, and it was before the actual ceremony started. And I walked out into the lobby, and there was a guard in the lobby with a gun, and I asked him if I could see his gun.
Okay.
And as we were exchanging the gun from his hand to mine, the gun went off, and my wife was just coming in, and it hit her and killed her. I mean, it was way, way out there. And when I first woke
Drugs
up,
were working.
well, it was. The nurse told me that was drug induced after it was, but anyway, it was so real to me that when I woke up on November 19th, 6 weeks later, the only day I could have visitors, there was a visitor there, and he was telling me how well things were doing, and I kept asking him about Susan, because I thought I had taken her life, and it was all a dream. I mean, it was pretty incredible. The other dream I had, I don't know why, I got several friends who live there, but I dreamed I blew up the city of Liberty, Indiana. I had been kidnapped by a group of terrorists, and they had a motive to blow up the city of Liberty, Indiana, and there was a big hospital there by the name of St. Luke's. You know, there's not even a Band-Aid station there. And I'm thinking, and then the third dream I had, which was pretty incredible, and there's a couple people in this room that were in this dream, including you and your husband. And Glenn was in this dream, and Bridget and Chad Wood. And I dreamed that you guys had all got together, and you know how Bridget McFadden is, and you were all dancing around my bed with your hands up in the air, praying for me.
I can see myself, but not Bud.
And so that was the three dreams I had. And on that 6 weeks I was out, that's, you know, I don't even, it shot by. I don't really remember it, but I don't remember a thing.
Well, and you know, and I guess that is a good thing, you know,
Yeah.
really. Was there ever a time that you just felt like giving up?
Yes, I did. When I woke up and I had that trach in my throat, and the doctor was pretty blunt with me. He said, you may have this in your throat the rest of your life. And I couldn't swallow, so I couldn't eat on my own. When I went into the hospital, I weighed 242. When I went into rehab, I weighed 182. So I had lost 60 pounds in those 6 weeks. And now you can tell I've gained it all back.
I know, you're right back to your old self.
No, not quite. I'm 25 pounds lighter.
Okay.
And
That's right, because you wore some baggy pants
yeah, I
at
bought
Bible study that you wore before. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely. But anyway, they took me down to give me what was called a swallowing test, and I was fit to be tied. I hadn't been awake long. You know, they wouldn't let me get up and walk. Well, I had no idea I couldn't walk, but they didn't tell me that. I don't know why they didn't tell me that. I kept pressing them. Hey, I don't need this bedpan. I can get up. No, you can't. And when I got down for that swallowing test, I remember just breaking down. And there was a nurse that was assigned to take me down, and she just patted me on the shoulder and said, it's going to be okay. And so, you know, by the time I got into rehab, the first week or two, I really had a bad attitude. I had to let the Lord deal with my attitude. You know, I thought I was going to rehab, and I looked around, and it was a nursing home. I thought, them people lied to me. I'm going to be here the rest of my life. But after 2 days, the Lord worked in my heart, and through it all, I was able to lead my lung doctor to the Lord. I was able to have an incredible impact on my doctor who helped me walk again, her and her husband and her family. I've been to both of their houses for dinner up in Fishers and so.
So what do you attribute to the fact that you made it out and made it out of the hospital, made it through COVID, and others didn't?
I don't know, because I had some wonderful people. My boy did 28 updates on my condition on Facebook. And once I got into rehab, I followed some of that. And some of the people that were commenting, Pastor, you're going to make it. We're praying for you. This will be okay. God's in control. 5 of them ended up dying of COVID. Now, they were older, but they've been friends of a lifetime. Why did God save me and take the others home? Well, the truth of the matter is they were the winners because they're with the Lord. And some of them are with mates that had passed away. But God had a purpose and a plan for me to be here. And I think there's 2 reasons for that. Number one, I do believe God is sovereign. He's in control. And for whatever reason, he had more for me to do. The second reason is, I tell you, I had, and I'm not saying others didn't have, but boy, I had an incredible number of people praying for me.
Yes.
I mean, it's just, and once I got out, I had a funeral at Donan Mills Funeral Home. And a lady and her husband walked up to me. She said, Pastor Holman, she said, you don't know me. And the tears were just rolling down her face. She said, I heard that you had COVID. And she said, for 7 weeks, my husband and I prayed every day for you. Didn't even know me. And so the prayers of God's people were certainly important.
There were people all over the world, really all over the world, because, you know, the missionaries that Hillcrest supported and knew about it, I'm sure they were all praying. So, and, you know, one thing through this, I think it showed a lot of people the importance of prayer, and they've seen the result.
Yeah, it was, you know, I was in the hospital, or in the post office one day, and I was in back of a lady. I'd just done a funeral, so I had a suit on. She turned around and she said, I like seeing guys in suits. She said, they don't even wear suits to church anymore. I said, well, I'm a pastor of Hillcrest Baptist. She said, I said, I'm getting ready to retire. She said, take your mask down. I took my mask down. She said, you're Marty Holman. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, my prayer group at St. Andrews has been praying for you every day. And it's amazing. I had hundreds of people around this town, when I started to get out, tell me, hey, I was praying for you.
Yeah, you have no idea
Yeah.
how many people have. Now, one other, because I know we're coming to the end, it always goes so quickly, but what have you learned from this experience that you've been through?
I think the fact that God is in charge, you know, we're so, in our culture today, we're so regulated by the clock and by social media and by television. And, you know, we see as we watch television, man, spectacular things happen. People that are in trouble get help. That's not always life. And sometimes the Lord is always in control. He's always God. But sometimes when I'm down, I just have to work through those things and trust that God is right there beside me. And sometimes when I'm sick, I just got to wait on God and see what God is going to do. And God is always able. You know, on that first Christmas morning, when the angel Gabriel said, for unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ. Christ means he's the anointed one. The Lord means he's the able one. Able to do anything we need done. Does he always do it the way we want it? I wish he would, because I want what I want.
Yeah.
But he is always in control. And that COVID experience really taught me that. I just have to depend on him. So it's pretty incredible. You know, I can stand and testify to the grace of God. I could go on, Elaine, and talk about this for 4 hours.
I know you could.
Because it's so real and it's so fresh in my mind. And, why did God... Susan was diagnosed the same day I was. And I remember thinking, this is going to kill her because of all her pre-existing conditions. Right. But why did God not give her anything other than asymptomatic symptoms? And it took me, a guy that didn't take an aspirin, and beat me up like an old drum. God wanted to do something with my pride. And so I don't know if that's the reason. But
well, I'll tell you what, we're thankful that God took care of you. He answered prayer, and we know He still today answers prayer.
Yes, He does.
But we're just so glad that you came through that. It was a terrible time, for everyone, and so many people have lost loved ones, friends through all that. But God brought you through, and we are just so happy that He did. And why did some people not get very sick and others really get it? Only God knows, I guess.
Only God knows, yeah.
Thank you for that, because that was so interesting.
Thank you.
And yeah, we could go on, and I can always think of other goofy questions even to ask you, but we got to close. And until next week, bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Glory Bound. We hope you have enjoyed our program. If you have made any decision for Christ today or have any special prayer requests or questions, please contact us at 765-935-1435 or email us at hbcglorybound@gmail.com.